was a little hesitant to make this video. What I experienced during pregnancy was not at all what I expected. I expected to have a fairly healthy pregnancy. Because I speak on things that are related to my weight loss journey, I wanted to kind of come on here and share my experience. Pregnancy was the most vulnerable, challenging, and emotional time of my life. I don't think that I've ever been tested on the level that I was. I don't even view my experience as negative. When I look back on it now, it just was a part of my journey. While I was pregnant, I was trying to filter what it was that I consumed. This is not at all meant to fearmonger. I just felt that while I was going through my pregnancy, there wasn't a lot of content out there that talked about the more difficult side to pregnancy. I felt like a lot of the content made things seem like it was just a breeze. It made everything seem like it was butterflies and rainbows, and that was far from what I experienced. And I'm about to tell y'all how my pregnancy experience was. So let's get into it. If birth-related topics are triggering for you, I'm just giving you a warning. This is what I'm about to discuss in this video. Hello, my name is Derica. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I found out I was pregnant 2 days after my bridal shower. That's another thing, is that originally finding out that I was pregnant, we did not plan this pregnancy. I remember I had a missed period and my husband was like, it was like 7 days late. And I didn't think that much of it because once upon a time I used to have abnormal cycles. I used to have irregular periods. So I'm just thinking like, okay, it's just late, but that wasn't like a big deal. Now I did become regular over time. I became very regular with my cycles, but to be late, I wasn't alarmed by it. My husband told me, you should go take a pregnancy test. And guess what? Your girl was pregnant. I have an announcement to make. Y'all thought I was drinking this weekend? Oh, 8 weeks pregnant. And as soon as I found out I was pregnant, it's like this level of anxiety that I've never experienced in my life just washed over me. And I had that anxiety throughout my whole entire pregnancy. The first thing that I want to talk about is my expectations of my pregnancy versus what was reality. I was working out and I was eating healthy and I was doing all of the things that I thought that I should have been doing. I expected for my pregnancy to be healthy. I expected, because I was doing these certain things, that I would achieve this certain outcome. And because if you are pregnant or if you have been pregnant before, you understand that pregnancy is very unpredictable. Just because you're doing certain things, that does not mean that you're going to be granted certain results. I didn't have morning sickness. I did not have the low energy and fatigue that a lot of people have. I never threw up and I was never nauseous while I was pregnant. So I'm very grateful for that. Some things that I expected was I didn't expect for my body to gain all that weight. I did not. I gained most of my pregnancy weight in my 3rd trimester. My birth plan was to have a natural home birth. I actually hired a midwife for my home birth. And as soon as I became high risk, she was out. I was using her for little things just because I already paid her. But for the most part, once I became high risk in my pregnancy, that shot down all of my dreams of having a natural home birth. I had a vision about my birth. I wanted my birth to be like a ritual, like a ceremony. I wanted incense going. I wanted sage burning. I wanted like R&B music playing in the background while I'm just sitting there present and I'm focused on me and my baby while I'm laboring. So what actually happened during my 2nd and my 3rd trimester is I was high risk because I had gestational hypertension. I was hospitalized multiple times because they wanted to monitor my blood pressure overnight and do 24-hour urines. I developed preeclampsia and I gained 65 pounds. My nose spread. I did not feel comfortable taking photos. Like, it's really hard trying to even find photos from my pregnancy and videos from my pregnancy because I was just angry. I actually skipped out on my maternity photo shoot. It just didn't look like my face. Like my body had become unfamiliar. I'm retaining all of this water because I retained a lot of water. I was very swollen during my pregnancy. I was being watched like a hawk. I had to get lab work drawn every week. I had to get the non-stress test every single week for the baby. They wanted me to get weekly ultrasounds, but I kind of fought that because the non-stress tests were normal every single week. So I just didn't see why we needed to do weekly ultrasounds to check his growth. To have to schedule appointments every single week while still continuing to work a full-time job on night shift, working an hour away from home. And then I'm still trying to keep up with my doula. I'm trying to keep up with things that calm me down, which was like massages, acupuncture, Reiki. I mean, I was doing it, going to the float spa. I was doing it all. It was a lot on me. And I feel because I was so focused on like tasky things and appointments, kind of robbed me of my calm pregnancy experience. That was a thing that I struggled with while I was pregnant, was while I was going through it, I suffered in silence. Very few people who knew about what I did have going on. It was a very isolating experience because I was pregnant and like two of my friends was pregnant. I had like other family members that was pregnant. And I felt like I was the only person who was really going through this high risk portion of my pregnancy. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about are the unspoken realities. Y'all, why nobody told me that pregnant women have bad body odor? Not that all pregnant women have bad body odor, but I just recall me being pregnant with one of my friends and her telling me how she had to take multiple showers a day. And then I'm just like, yo, I thought it was just me. I was having hot flashes, especially towards the end, honey. I walk a couple steps and I'm out of breath. My neck was fat. I didn't have no neck while I was pregnant. I also had really bad hair shedding in the first trimester. In the beginning of my pregnancy, my hair had shed really, really bad. All of my hair came out to the point where I chopped all of my hair off postpartum. And then at the time, you know, I still worked full time. Hey, well, if you feel like you're overwhelmed with appointments, then just kind of drop down your work schedule. Well, guess what? Life didn't work like that. That wasn't reality for me. I had high bills. I accumulated a lot of things before I got pregnant because our pregnancy was, again, unplanned. I was in 3 weddings in the year of 2022. So it just wasn't reality for me to cut down on my hours at work. I still had to work. I worked an hour away from home. I was full blown pregnant, commuting an hour to work and commuting an hour back home while I was in my 3rd trimester. I just didn't have that luxury, honey. As a travel nurse, we don't get PTO. We don't get maternity leave. We get stack your bread and then you can just take off and don't sign another contract. That's what we get. So during the timing of my pregnancy, I had to work. I had to stack my money so that I can comfortably take off decent time. I will say after a while that hour commute became super taxing on my body. Working night shift, like pregnant in nights, it don't go. From the moment that I found out I was pregnant, I just felt like I was in survival mode. I developed white coat syndrome. If you're unfamiliar with what white coat syndrome is, it's pretty much your blood pressure is high in the hospital setting. When you're removed from a hospital setting, your blood pressure is lower, like it's normal. It's still a trigger for me to even put a blood pressure cuff on my arm. I had a hard time coping. And looking back on it now, things could have gone south. A lot of my anxiety, it came from me. It wasn't anything that anybody was doing to me. It was me trying to control the narrative of my pregnancy journey. I became super anxious when things didn't go my way. I exercised my entire pregnancy. I dieted my entire pregnancy. I was working close with my doula. And I still developed gestational hypertension. I still developed preeclampsia. God was showing me that you cannot control everything. Sometimes you just need to surrender to your experiences. And I feel like that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned from being pregnant. I was fighting the doctors. I'm like, y'all not inducing me. Once my emotions aren't as strong about it, I could think more clearly. I'm going to think about how I played a part in my own experience. I'm not about to sit here and get on this camera and tell y'all it was the doctor's fault. It was so-and-so's fault because I allowed my emotions to be hijacked. You can control how you respond to your own emotions. So throughout that experience, I feel like I made my situation worse and bigger than what it needed to be. I was struggling with being present during my pregnancy. I wasn't present. I was anxious. I was in my head. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts. I struggle with knowing how to communicate with my husband with how I needed him to show up for me while I was pregnant. But being someone who's usually able to satisfy my own needs. Being someone who's fairly independent, I was single for a very long time before I got into a relationship with my now husband. It was hard for me to express to him what it was that I needed. I think that a lot of women, especially women who come from strong mother foundations, maybe even coming from single women, because my mom was a single woman who raised all 3 of her kids, we kind of can struggle with being able to vocalize our needs, and especially with vocalizing our needs that we need from someone else. What I realized while I was pregnant was I couldn't do it all by myself. So I had to do some deep diving into myself to be able to identify what it was that I needed from him and how I needed him to show up for me during my pregnancy. I thought that my biggest fear was being induced. So this whole entire time I'm fighting the doctors. No, I don't want to get induced early. 37 weeks is the recommendation, whatever. When I want to go to 40 at least and continue, I was telling them, I'm like, look, I want to go into labor naturally. My son's going to come when he's ready to come. Babies come when they are ready to come. Around 36 weeks, my little chunk of munchkin decided to flip. He flipped and he was Breech. He was head down this whole time, and then he flipped and he became Breech. Although I'm smiling on this camera, baby, when it happened, I wasn't smiling. I was beefing with my son. I was irrational while I was pregnant. So my baby was Frank Breech. There are like different types of Breech. And because he was Frank Breech, he was butt down. Instead of me talking about being induced, now we're speaking on a possible C-section. Anxiety through the roof. I just knew I was going to be the one to have a vaginal birth. I didn't even think the C-section would be in my future. I didn't even think about a C-section. Why I was so upset about needing a C-section and Kaya's turning Breech was because I felt like I was fighting this whole entire pregnancy. I did all of this vaginal birth preparation with relaxing the pelvic floor, strengthening the pelvic floor, learning how to open up the pelvic, the inlet and the outlet and all of this stuff. Learning the different breath work on how to try to keep myself calm during labor. I spent so much time prepping that I took away from my actual pregnancy experience, only to end up having a C-section. All of the birth prep that I did serves this purpose. I'm not saying that I regret doing it, but I think that I took it a little too serious. I did all of that and I could have just been present with my pregnancy. It was like a slap in the face for me. I took it very personal. I blamed my son for us having to go through the process of a C-section in these versions. If you have any of these emotions while you're pregnant, you are not alone. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, because a lot of moms be thinking some crazy stuff. A lot of postpartum women think crazy things, but nobody feels comfortable enough to vocalize these things. I did every single natural remedy. If you Google how to turn a Breech baby, I did it all. I was at the pool. My doula was helping me. She was doing all of these like smoke rituals and what we needed this baby to turn. I also experienced 2 versions. If you're unfamiliar with what a version is that the actual doctors try to manually turn your baby. You're supposed to be medicated, but I was not. I chose to do it naturally. It's not something that they told me to do. It was something that I chose to do naturally. After I received that version, they wanted to induce me after that. And I signed myself out AMA, which is against medical advice. I didn't feel like it was time for my son to come. Some decisions that I made, I definitely agree with it, but I was really heavy on advocating for myself when I was in the hospital. And it's because I might have known too much, being somebody who works in healthcare. I think that was a part of the reasoning why I was fighting. So after that first version, it was unsuccessful. Caius did not flip. He was being real stubborn in there. Me and my husband went to my OB appointment, which was the following day. And then that's when we ended up scheduling the C-section. So we went to the hospital on the day of my C-section. The OB, she felt my stomach and she was like, I think we can turn him. I'm like, okay, so at this point, I came with the expectation that I was getting a C-section. So if you wanted to do another version on him, then that's cool with me. So they went in and they ended up, I got a spinal and I got a epidural because the plan was as if he turned and they were going to induce me. They go in there, they turn. At this point, I didn't feel a thing during this experience at all. The first one, my blood pressure was sky high because I was in pain, honey, and I was anxious. But with this one, this second version was like, I think the day that I arrived for my C-section, I think that I was a little bit more in a space of surrender. So I was just kind of going with the flow that day. So they tried the version. Kaius was fighting him. He said he didn't want to turn. That's the Taurus energy in him. His heart rate dropped and they was like, had me take deep breaths, brought his heart rate back up. They asked me if I wanted to do it again. They was like, we could try one more. Nope. I'm like, I came here for a C-section. I appreciate y'all wanting to turn my baby. We tried it. That was the second version. We're not going to try it again. He don't want to turn. It's okay. I'm okay with getting a C-section. Man, shout out to my C-section moms. Shout out to all my moms, period, because we some bad ASSs, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is how I coped. I don't want this video to be just all negative. I want to tell you guys what helped me during my pregnancy. The primary thing that helped me during my pregnancy was my husband. Once I was able to identify that I had an issue vocalizing my own needs, being able to communicate that to him, then things shifted. But the one thing that I will say about my husband is that he was grounding for me. My husband, he was with me the whole way through. He supported all of my decisions. He was the sound mind between the two of us. He was the calm one. A service or something that I could have utilized while I was pregnant was, or if you're watching this video and you're experiencing some things that are pregnancy related, is finding you a community that's going through the same thing that you are going through. It's something comforting about knowing that you're not the only person that's going through something. It sucks at the time. If the baby's healthy and you're healthy and everyone's alive and you're able to continue on with your postpartum journey, it's all worth it at the end of the day. You don't see that. I did not see that. But now me looking back, I could just give my younger self a hug and let her know that it gets better. You are okay, and your baby, he is the best thing that has ever happened to me. I also really appreciated the labor and delivery team because although I came in for a C-section, they allowed me to have some personalized experiences. We had our own music playing. Usually in the operating room, you're only allowed to have your spouse. They allowed my spouse and my doula, and I had clear draping so I can see what was going on. When I was on that table getting my cesarean section, I was calm. I don't have a birth trauma. I have a little bit of pregnancy trauma, but I don't have a birth trauma. I am satisfied with how things turned out. My final reflection, or the thing that I learned the most, is that you cannot control everything. Your best bet is to surrender to your experience. Only thing you could do is the best that you can. That's my biggest lesson that I learned, and that's my biggest takeaway when I reflect on my pregnancy experience. I was entirely too hard on myself. Stop being so hard on yourself. You are not a robot. Things don't always go according to plan. Only thing I could do is my best. Being judgmental of myself. I felt like a victim. I felt like things was happening to me. I feel like I did something wrong, and that's the reason why my pregnancy turned out the way that it did. What do I wish that I would have done differently? I think one of my biggest challenges, or one of my biggest fears, was that I never had a health scare. And there's nothing that makes you feel more out of control than not being able to control your health. Even I know women who end up having to get their gallbladders removed, because it's a lot of different challenges that can come with pregnancy. We could speak on gestational hypertension. We could speak on preeclampsia. We can speak on diabetes and gestational diabetes. It is a lot. Pregnancy can be hard on the heart. It's a lot of different challenges that can take place during pregnancy. I did not allow my experience to deter me from wanting to have another baby. With that being said, what I would do differently is I would be more present. I would not allow myself to be hijacked based off of fear. I would allow myself to be more in love with the pregnancy experience. Whatever is meant to happen is going to happen. So there's no point of me allowing myself to be stressed out. It's above me. It's out of my control. My best bet will be surrendering to my experience. Other thing that I would do differently is I want to have a calm pregnancy. Like, my first pregnancy was just really active. I just want to be calm and chill. I want to be on the couch with my feet propped up. I actually plan to share my experience with postpartum and how it was not what I expected. And then I plan to share my experience with breastfeeding, because that was really not what I expected. And it's a lot of things that is glorified and it's a lot that's not talked about. I would like to know, is there anything that I mentioned in this video that you experienced? And if so, drop a comment down below. I would like to hear about it. This is a safe space. Share your experiences with me. I want to know. I want moms to know the full scope of pregnancy, not just the good stuff. I'm gonna see y'all again next time. Hey, 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 hey.